Hi there, welcome to Coach Talk TV once again. Now, have you ever wondered why you, or anyone for that matter, takes so long to change or even to accept a change? Well, in today's video, we're going to take a look at why that is, and we're going to take a look at a way that we can manage change a little bit easier. Okay, so have you ever introduced someone to something really, totally new that you knew was fantastic, that's out of this world, and truly dynamite? Just to have them look at you like you were nuts? What do you think that is? Well, it happens to all of us, and it happens to all of us on a daily basis. Now, it seems to happen to me on an hourly basis, but that's another story. It's because we're designed to resist change and to seek normalcy, or to seek the status quo. Now think about that for a second. Imagine that each time you walked into your office or your bedroom or your house, you found it rearranged and everything was in a totally different place. It'd literally drive you insane. And you wouldn't be able to ever get anything done. Now, we all know that change is inevitable. It's also unpredictable at times, and it's very constant. And I know that sounds funny, but it is. So how can we manage those changes, and how can we flow from our current normal to a new normal with the least amount of effort, with the least amount of pain, and certainly in the least amount of time? Now, I'm glad you asked me that. The answer is we're going to learn to use the human change curve, or the HCC, to your advantage. Now, the HCC is a plotted curve that shows the different phases we go through when faced with some sort of change. And it really could be any type of change, or even any size of change. You'll almost always be able to fit that change into this curve, or any change for that matter. Now, we don't always necessarily go through all the different phases all of the time. Sometimes we don't resist change, and we accept it right away. And now you can say serious pain if you don't change. Now, but for the most part, we generally do resist change. The important thing to remember here is that we're trying to manage the resistance to change. If there's no resistance, then there's no problem to manage and everything's going to flow smoothly. But for our purposes today, we're going to take a look at the 4 very basic phases of that change curve. Now, the first one is going to be shock or denial. Second one is going to be resistance. Third one is going to be exploration. And the fourth one is going to be acceptance. Now, in some models, there are quite a few more phases, and also depending on the type of problem to address or the type of change we're trying to address, there's going to be a lot more phases that we're going to face. But for our purposes and to get started using the change curve, we're only going to take a look at these 4. So let's take a look. Okay, so let's take a look at that change curve we were talking about. Now, as we said, the change curve, or the human change curve, is going to have, or at least the one we're going to talk about today, is going to have 4 different stages. Okay, so what you're seeing here is the beginning of a graph. Now, we have a vertical line and we've got a horizontal line. Now, the vertical line is going to represent performance, or at least in our case today, it's going to represent performance. Now, this could also represent emotions, for instance, or it could represent really anything that you want to measure. However, for our examples today, we're going to talk about performance. Now, the horizontal line here, the horizontal line is always going to represent time, because the change is actually a function of time. Now, we're going to add a third line here, and this is what we talked about before. We're going to add the status quo line. So let's go ahead and get that up. Now, the status quo line, or this, represents our normal, or what our normal day-to-day is. Okay, this is what we're accustomed to. This is what we're used to. This is how we've been doing things all our lives, for instance. Okay, so this is the status quo. And this is what we're going to measure everything or measure the change against. So, like we said before, we've got 4 stages, and the first stage is denial or shock. So let's get that going. And we're going to start there. So we're at our status quo line, okay? We're here. And this is our day-to-day. This is today, for instance. This is how we do things now. So somebody tells us we've got to do something different. We've got to change. Or we tell ourselves we've got to change. We've got to do something a different way because of whatever reason. But let's use an example. Let's say at work, you've been doing the accounting with pencil and paper all your life since you've been at that job. And now they've just installed a new accounting software, and you've got to use that accounting software. They've told you you've got to use the accounting software. And you say, no way, I've been doing it on paper and it works and I've never lost money and blah, 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 blah. There's your shock and there's your denial. You say, no, come on. Are you kidding me? You can't change the way I do things now. I'm so used to this. No way, man. I can't believe they're doing this to me. Okay? So we start out here. They've told us we've got to change our day-to-day. And now our performance is going to begin to drop, or even our morale, or even our whatever emotion we're feeling is going to begin to drop. Okay? And we're going to start moving into the next stage after shock and denial, which is resistance. And like we said before, resistance is the key to the whole thing. What we're managing is resistance in ourselves or in somebody else. Okay, so this is the whole key to the question. Now, resistance. We say, no, man, there's no way I'm using this new accounting package. You cannot make me use this accounting package. No way, I'm going to keep doing it on pencil and paper. Or you even might start using it, but you keep doing it on pencil and paper. Now, the whole time you're complaining, whinging, and moaning, and you're still doing it on paper, your performance is going to drop. Regardless of what you think or say, your performance is going to drop. And this is where this comes in. Now, your emotional state might drop. Now, your morale may drop, and performance and morale probably go hand in hand. So those are going to drop. So we're going to keep following this line down. It's going to go down here. So now, the longer you resist, the longer this gets. The longer this dip gets. Okay? In a business, we know that time is money. Now, if we're measuring change in ourselves or in an emotion that we're feeling, obviously you don't want to spend the rest of your life changing or resisting the change. You want to shorten this up. Okay? So now after a certain amount of time, and I don't know what this scale could be. Scale could be 1 day, it could be 1 year. Okay? But after a certain amount of time, we're going to move into the next stage, which is experimentation. Now, what does experimentation mean? Well, experimentation means that we might have received some training, we might have read a book, something. We're learning a new skill, or we're using that new accounting package alongside our pencil and paper, but we're starting to work with it, and maybe we're even starting to see the light a little bit. After a training session, we might think, oh, well, okay, maybe this ain't so bad. Let's give it a shot. Or even you might think, let's give it a shot and see that I'm right, that this is crap and it's not going to work. Okay? So this is the experimentation stage. Now, as we start to experiment, and as we start to gain that new skill, or as we start to, boost our morale or whatever, the change curve starts going up. And we start going, the more we use this new accounting software, the more we begin to read or learn this new skill, the closer we get to where we were before, performance-wise, or emotion-wise, or morale-wise, however we're looking at it.
the closer we start getting back to where we were. Now, in the beginning, we said, we're running smoothly, everything's going good, everything's working. So we start getting back here using the new software, using that new accounting software. We're starting to get back to the status quo. Now, this is important. The whole reason to change is not to stay where you are. The whole reason to change is to move away from the status quo or move the status quo somewhere up here. That is the key. Otherwise, change is useless. Otherwise, there's no reason to change. Okay, so now the longer we take here in this dip, the longer this extends, the longer or the more money it's going to cost the business, or the more time you're going to wallow in your misery, the more time it's going to take. So what we want to do is we want to get through these two stages as fast as possible, and we want to limit the performance loss that we suffer. Okay, so we want to get back to this status quo somewhere over here. We want to get back to the status quo as soon as possible. Okay, now we're back. We're now working at the same rate we were working before. So again, this isn't what we wanted. We actually want to break through that status quo, and we want to take it up to this new level. So finally, the last stage is acceptance. And acceptance is where we're actually going to really take off. And we're going to move that status quo line up here, up on the performance scale. Okay, so if this is 0, we want to move it up to 100. Obviously, that's why we've implemented the new accounting software. Okay, so acceptance now is our new status quo. This is why we've changed. So again, like I said, we want this somewhere over here, and we want it as high as possible. Okay, so in an ideal situation, what we're doing when we're managing change is we want to manage this resistance. Without resistance, like I said before, there is no need to manage change. Okay, change happens automatically. It's the resistance that we're trying to manage. Now, we want this line to be as shallow as possible and as short in time as possible and as high up the performance ladder as possible, or the performance scale. Okay, so what we're really trying to do is this. When we implement a change management program in our business or in a company, or when we're trying to change ourselves, what we're trying to do is we're trying to manage this resistance, or what we're actually managing is this resistance here. Okay, and we want to shorten this change curve. Now, I use this change curve in every training session that I use, in every seminar that I use, whenever I'm presenting new information and reasonably shocking information, or trying to get people to change the way they're working now and perform better, I always fit them into this curve. And it is amazing to watch the expressions on people's faces and watch how people go through shock and denial when I present the information for the first time, as I go through all the new information and the new way of doing things, the resistance look on their face, the experimentation stage, and then the acceptance stage. It is absolutely amazing to watch how these stages manifest themselves in people's faces and people's expressions. And I can watch individuals in a training session or in a seminar, when it's not too big, I can watch people's faces and I can fit them in on the change curve. Since I've been using this, this has been one of the greatest tools that I've been able to use to enhance my training sessions, enhance my coaching sessions, and really get people to perform at their best. So go ahead, learn these different stages, learn this change curve, learn how to graph the curve and the different stages and the time that it takes to go through each one. And you will be amazed, absolutely shocked and amazed at how well you can fit people into this curve. Okay, great. Now, if you like this video, as always, I ask you to subscribe to my YouTube channel at the button you see down below. And also, if you want even more great videos or the latest and greatest in Personal Growth Hacking 3.0, go ahead and sign up for my newsletter at the link you see down below. Also, if there's a particular topic that you'd like to see a video on, no problem. Just drop me a comment in the comment section down below, and I'd be more than happy to work up a video for you. Remember, folks, this is your life. Live the way you want.